Okay. So, in the last episode, or stream, or whatever, we healed the Letty at the end, and now have the... Oh, stay here. Wait a minute. It seems Morrowind somehow reset my controls. I'm quite sure I set this to E, and this to space. It also set up reset my graphic settings, which is weird. Not sure why that happened. Anyway, we now have to do a pilgrimage to Mount Kand. So this person wants us to make the pilgrimage to Mount Kand, which is northwest of Molagmar. At least not very far away. On Mount Kand, Vivek won a contest with wits with 3 Daedra. There are a few lights in the caverns. You may need these. Okay, here goes some potions. If you're not good with riddles, you may want to find a copy of the Yellow Book of Riddles. Several booksellers have this book. There might even be one in the temple here. But I feel somewhat confident in my riddling skills, so I'll do that. How far is that to walk? That doesn't seem to be too far away. We can do this. Okay. At least we're not forced to do this one in silence as well. I'm not sure how many people, how many of you liked the last live stream where I was mostly silent because I was doing the silent pilgrimage. Oh well, we'll find out. Okay, we need to go northwest-ish. Yeah, this is North. We don't want him to see our Indral stuff. They'll probably not appreciate that. So how do I get down from Molagmar? I guess we'll do what we did in Vivek as well, which is jump down that way. I didn't want to jump that literally.
You have questions?
Okay, this person seems to be... Oh, hello, the Hector. That was quick. Are you stalking me? Okay, that's a Silt Strider. So we'll just follow this path, and apparently this will lead us to Mount Kand, where we will step in the footsteps of Vivek and do some riddling. I may be terrible at this, I may not be. It might have been a good idea to actually bring the Yellow Book of Riddles somewhere. For now, we'll take some trauma root. And... okay. This way, that way. Northwest, on the left side of the trail, marked on the map. Okay, if it's supposed to be on the left side of the trail, we'll probably want to go this way. Okay. I got home just like an hour ago also. Had dinner and now I decided to do a little streaming. Probably not too long because it's already kinda late, although not too long usually means like up to 3 hours anyway, so you don't have to stay awake that long. Especially if, unlike me, you actually have stuff to do. Okay, Cliff Racer. Oh, come on. It dodged it. Of course it dodged it. Script on, not aggressive. Cliff Racers are, and we want to go this way. Like this guy. Now it's angry. Fun fact, I just came from archery. Say just. Now go. Seized one? That's a blighted one. I hate those. Will not touch it. Also, since Morrowind messed up my settings somehow, I'll have to look up my... Like, this time the other end of the stream is cut off. The other end of the chat is cut off, so let me just switch back to that. This will silence the phone. Okay, chat. I usually try not to stream late if I have to wake up early the next day. I would have actually streamed earlier, but today was kind of a busy day because I was also wintering out the bees. And that basically meant I had to deal with other stuff today, and let's just say streaming is usually something that can wait. Because it kinda doesn't matter when I stream, but it does make a big difference whether or not I open up the bees during the night, during the day, or when it's warm or not. Actually quite a big difference because, well, it's they can get quite pissy, and I've had this last fall when I was, I think I was opening up the hive in around October, and they really didn't appreciate that. I ended up getting stung 3 or 4 times. Although I could have probably stopped it after the first one, but I decided, you know what, oh yes, I'm a hobby beekeeper. Actually got all my hives through the winter this year, or at least all of the hives I did get into the winter. So suck it, Terra School. Over my pet peeve. Mr. Cool's videos on beekeeping. I wouldn't do it professionally, to be fair though. It's it can be rewarding. It's very it's a very pleasant thing to do, but you are after all at the mercy of nature. So this should be, yeah, Mount Kand. Let's save here because I believe I know what to expect awaits us in here. Live stream 85. 85 save games already. If you're interested, you'll find a few beekeeping related videos on my channel. They actually have an own playlist. Yikes, that is dark. I'm not sure how much you can see on YouTube, so I'll actually drink those potions. He gave us some night eye potions. Quality potions even, wow. I'm surprised by the temple. So I hope this is better. I don't think you can actually treat bees as your pets like you would do with a cat or with a dog or something like that, because a bee will not... I don't think they'll actually develop an affection to you. In summer, a bee lives like 6 weeks, and that's hardly enough to actually form a close bond to you. So it's more like we're working together. So yes, I think it's more like the relationship between a shepherd and his sheep than with a pet. Also note that those Daedra here, if memory serves, are not actually hostile. Just to switch topic here. Those here are actually the Daedra we have to riddle, so we can talk to them. Answer my riddle, fool, and then fight me. But would you have to riddle and fight? The Daedra speaks slowly in words obviously memorized. A metal neither black nor red, as heavy as a man's golden greed. What do you do to stay ahead with friend or arrow or steed? That would be lead. Yeah, you lead in order to stay ahead, so this should be lead. Pass, mortal. Okay, do I have to fight it now? No. Yeah, it seems alright. To be fair, I think the bees could do just as fine without me. With one exception, the Varroa Mite is actually a thing they can't handle that well. Okay, there's a frost danger. And you gotta hand it to this place. It does look kind of fancy. All the frost here. I'm gonna save the game because I don't know which other riddles will get here. How did I get into it? To be fair, it just seemed like a good idea to me. Many other people have like some kind of sob story, like, yeah, my grandfather did it, and on his deathbed I had to vow to keep his bees. I've heard all those, but I actually just thought it could be a good idea. Mostly because last year I had an internship and I had to go by train there every day. And on that train station in the place where I had the internship, there were bees buzzing around, and I enjoyed watching them. So I looked into beekeeping a bit more, and yeah, I decided, why the hell not try it? Well, let's not. I was actually considering to do like a live stream or Q&A video on beekeeping at some point. I'm not sure if people would want to see that from me. It's also kind of difficult to do because I'm not sure what I could add to the entire beekeeping discussion, because there are bigger channels that cover beekeeping, and I think there's already quite a plethora of videos out there that discuss why or what you need and stuff like that. But if you lot are interested, I will probably do that. Okay, answer this riddle for me, mortal. If you lie to me, I will slay you with my sword. If you tell me the truth, I will slay you with a spell. So, I have to say, it will slay me with a sword. Excellent. Haha, that one's a classic. Okay. Would you mind telling me where the... Oh, probably this way. This cave is bloody dark. Alright, this robe. I wanted to sell that robe, actually. As I said, it's not the greatest story, but it's the one I'm stuck with. Is that passable? It might be. Let's save the game. Okay, is my riddling up to speed here? I am your final barrier, mortal. Answer my riddle, and then best me, if you can. My fellow Ertronak, Zedia's Zoko was slain. Oh, Christ. I should totally not make a movie of myself. Okay, the Altima claims the Dunmer is guilty. The Dunmer says the Khajiit did it. The Orc swears he didn't kill Zedia's Zoko. The Khajiit says the Dunmer is lying. If only one of these speaks the truth, who killed Zedia's Zoko? Okay. I'll actually have to take a bit of paper now and have to write this down. This is so we have an Altmer. Okay, let's start with the slowest thing. We have an Atronach who is dead. So Atronach dead. I figured that much out. Then we have an Altmer, a Dunmer, an Orc, and a Khajiit. Okay, the Altmer blames the Dunmer. The Dunmer blames the Khajiit. The Orc says it wasn't him. And the Khajiit says the Dunmer is lying. So if only one of these speaks the truth, who has killed Zedia's Zoko? Okay, if the Orc swears he didn't do it, and he is right, then that would mean everybody else would be lying, and we wouldn't know who the killer is. Okay. So, I don't think it was the Orc. If the Altmer was lying, then... No, if the Altman was the one who speaks the truth, then it would pretty much be the Orc, right? Because if the Orc swears he didn't kill Zydia Zoko, yeah, I mean the thing is the Dhamma and the Khajiit. This one can't be because those are kind of mutually exclusive, so they can't both be true. Which means the true statement can't be the one of the Altma nor the one of the Orc. So those two are lying. I think it would have been the Khajiit. I will probably blame the cat, so it's the Khajiit. Oops. Okay, it was not the Khajiit. How about we don't die, and instead, I don't know, Devil Spear? Okay, we kinda messed up here. Do I get to do this again? Let's load the game. And in this case, I'm just going to go with, I'll go with the Dunmer did it then. It's usually the cat or the gardener, but there was no gardener here. Okay, we'll blame the Dunmer this time. Nope, it was not the Dunmer. In that case, it would have been the Orc. Yep. Figured. I should have totally figured that. Right, if everybody else lied, then the Orc... In most of those cases, it would have been the Orc. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's kind of late. So, the Orc. Aha! The answer is correct. Only took us 3 attempts. And now what? Oh, the Triolith of Mount Kand. Okay, where is that? Is that the final riddle? Where's the bloody Triolith? Is it down here? No. Is it behind you? Ah! I'm drowning! Help! I'm drowning in knee-deep water! Is that... Oh, I think that's the way to the Triolith. Okay. Oh wow, yeah, that is totally the Triolith. What's down there? Oh, okay, magma. Okay, I've slurped up that thing. Spell. Now, we have the Mount Can Shrine, which gives us a lot of stats. Nice. Very, very nice indeed. And since we're pretty close to Moragma, we should just be able to see the invention out and turn this quest in. That was quick. Had I not fluffed up the logic riddle, that would have been even quicker. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I'm a bit slow. It happens. Okay, this guy is the quest giver here. You there. I have made my pilgrimage to Mount Kand. You heard... okay, he heard we defeated the riddle at Beja at Mount Kand and received Vivek's blessing. Yeah, give me more duties, please. Okay, kill necromancers. We have heard of a guy named Delvam Andaris. He lives in Marvia, southeast of Monagmar. From there, follow the river to the east as it heads south. Blah, okay. Southeast. Yeah, follow to the east as it heads south. It's not far before it opens into a lake. Turn east again and look for an island just south of the coast. Okay, so we'll leave Mulakmar and head to the east. We should actually be able to see that here. We can't really zoom in that far though. I suppose it's pretty much here. Wait, he said what? South? Yeah, southeast of Mulakmar. so if we follow the river here, this would probably be this lake, and I don't know, it's either here or maybe even here. We'll see. Let's get there though.
My patience is limited.
Okay, and down and down. Apparently this was the wrong side. It's actually fine. We can just yeah, we'll follow the river the old-fashioned way. In we go! I just remembered why I didn't want to do that. Another one. Oh well. Slaughterfish galore here. Is that all of them? Wonderful. I think we just killed 2 in one go. Okay, so follow the river east as it heads south. Okay, so we'll take that river and follow it east as it heads south. South is that way. So many cliff races. Why does it always have to be cliff races? I also wish we could swim a bit faster. Probably could if I wouldn't be holding a spear. Okay. Let's actually level up our destruction a bit. Come on! Get this spell in, would ya? Fine, we'll stab it. We'll just stab it. Let's use my weapon now. Yeah, much better. And we'll dispose of that corpse. I guess we'll go back into sneaking right after looting this crash weed. Let's find some cork roots. This should also be... No, it's not a crash weed. Okay, fine. That is... Oh yeah, that is river. It is going south. We have some salt rice and some muck sponge. Know your plants. Fun fact, I probably know more plants and more vegetation in Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls series than I know in real life. Before I got into beekeeping, my knowledge of plants was very limited. It still is. I'm only a beekeeper for 2 years. And what I usually do is I would distinguish between 2 things. Plants I can directly eat and, well, the rest. So, yeah. I don't think you'd call me an expert on plants. Ah, no feathers this time. So we'll follow that river for now. Crab meat, lovely. This should not be Marvia, but we'll check, just to be sure. Before we keep following the river. Let's also get the... Which was more like Mother's Kiss or Regenerate? It's Mother's Kiss, so we'll take that one. Yeah, but it certainly helps. It certainly helps to to know your plants because, well, it does have an impact on beekeeping, although I generally leave that to the actual gardeners. Is that Marvia? Just saw something there. This could actually be Marvia. It's like a lake and an island and southish, so I suppose it fits the description. I should probably sneak. And one of these days I'll have to look for big soul gems. Oh, can I go with you? Okay. Do I want to get there? Something has seen me and it's not. Of course it was a cliff racer. And of course it had no plumes for me. Okay, is that... That's a mud crab. Is that Marvia? Jump, and jump, and jump, and jump. It is wonderful. So I'm expecting to see some undead in here, since this guy is apparently a necromancer. Yeah, he's kind of subtle about that. Ooh, a Bone Lord. Can we summon the Devil's Spear? Then get the Soul Trap ready. Actually, do I have one of those Gem Feeder Scrolls? Ah, it's a shame I don't. Woohoo, we trapped the soul. And even came with a lesser soul gem. How very convenient. Yeah, I also think it's kind of a dumb move to trade that much for fancier graphics. And a dual wielding system. I'm not sure if we're just meeting skeleton champions because we are somewhat better at fighting now, or if those are leveled. This guy is apparently a failure, or it's just a dead body. He had a pretty horrible weapon. Well, he had it coming then. Anything good down here? I mean, again, don't get me wrong, Skyrim is a game that I have spent way too much time with as well. But I think it would have been way better if it had done a lot more like Morrowind, even though that would have meant taking a few more risks. And I think this is the real problem with today's gaming industry, is people don't want to take any risks anymore. They have the formula, they know this works, and even though Bethesda is at least a bit more on the creative side, I think you could. I mean, it doesn't look too bad with the STEPWIND mod, or what pack rather. And fun fact, I actually heard they are rebuilding Morrowind in the Skyrim engine. Not Bethesda, but fans are actually building Morrowind in the Skyrim engine. So if you're patient, someday we might even see that happening. And to be fair, I would be completely excited about that. And I would totally look for that, and look forward to that. But I have no idea when that will happen. Why would you incarcerate bones? Ooh, nice. Spark arrows. Rubbish. Okay, devil spear. Somebody's been happy with the traps here. I have no idea what the Elder Scrolls Online was about. It's one of those games I've never got to play. Ooh, they have a good spear in that. Why, yes, please. I don't really care about this the heart wall armor, but something tells me it might be important. But there's an ebony spear in here. Okay, we're over encumbered. By 5 weight units, I think we can alchemy that away. So Elder Scrolls Online, no idea what it was about. At least, I think it was... well, obviously it was online, so I think there were some competitive elements in it. But do not quote me on that, okay? It was... I'm not big on online games. There are only one or two I've actually looked into and I've played more than a few minutes. For the most part, I'm not one of those mobile people, or of those online-ish people, or multiplayer people. Sometimes I do enjoy it, but for the most part, I prefer to stay for myself. And okay, I can make a potion that paralyzes myself. Not sure why I'd want that. Marshmallow. Do you happen to recall what ingredient gave restore health? I think resin would do. Do we have any resin? We don't. Emeralds would also probably do. Scuttles will not. Wonderful. Ooh, wickweed. Yeah, we still suck at potion making. And I mean, to be fair, the Elder Scrolls formula of having you as the hero, the one hero of the game, I think that kind of falls flat when you actually try to involve like a million other people who do the same, because there can only be like one person who fits the prophecy, unless it was a very boring prophecy. And yeah, it was never that appealing to me, so I just can't tell you what it's all about. We still need to throw away some weight, right? Yeah, quite a lot. Turns out razor plumes are not that heavy. But the thing with online games, and that's something I really don't like about them, is that they're very static, and they're also they're designed to be to keep people around. They're designed to keep you in, to keep you hooked, and to keep you coming back to them, and also to be accessible all the time. And I think this is a big downside, because that means they have to be somewhat static. There can't be real advancement in the world. There can't be any progress in the world, and I think that's just it doesn't make for a great game. Wait, we can detect key with muck, and did bone meal have the same effect? No, it didn't. It's telekinesis. Yeah. Okay, we could make bitter green petals and diamond. We could also fluff up that potion completely. Get rid of some of this guarhide here. What does it do? Fortify endurance, drain fatigue. Intelligence, restore intelligence. Drain, restore agility. Restore fatigue, restore magicka, restore health. I know I have to keep those because we want to turn those in. For the cult. Fortify magicka, restore health. It's probably like a very expensive ingredient for a restore health potion. Drain health, drain health. We could make a drain health potion. Let's do that. We can sell those. So, gold carnate. What was that? Oh, no, there was one below that now. So the hackle low leaf, no. Heather, no. Fire petals, that was the one. Of course, the negative potions do work. Okay, we could make a resist fire potion as well. So with this and some fire petals. They have no other beneficial effects we know about. Okay, resist poison. Do we have anything for that? Resist fire, frost, telekinesis, fatigue. I mean, I could just drop those hides off, but I want to make a potion out of them. Resist poison, that's fine. Nice, we just increased our alchemy skill. We also have some guarhides, and we have lots of those things. Okay, guarhide. Guarhide fortifies endurance. Do you have anything for that? Fortify agility. Restore personality, fortify speed. That. Nice. I hope those potions aren't that heavy. Okay. I mean, yeah, we're going to sell most of those. Okay, I think that'll do for now. Can we move again? Yes, we can. Ooh, there's another chest here. Ooh. Oh my god, this stuff is so great. This place is so valuable. I'm going to drop off that cuirass here, because it's not that great. And this thing is amazing for sale. I also probably want to use this. Just because I can. Now I look like an ordinator. Torches. One of the most useless items in most games. Even though you're often kind of encouraged to take them with you, in most games they're bloody useless. I mean, you can have a night vision spell, which does not consume any of your hands, so why would you ever go with a torch? Which is also heavy. I just tried to punch a bone lord. That can't go right. Soldier. And do you know what this Ebony Spear means now, it means we might finally put the Devil's Spear to retirement. We can finally retire the Devil's Spear and use that Ebony Spear. We can even put a nice enchantment on it. And it might be our new permanent spear. It's almost as good as the Daedric Spear. In fact, let's compare them. We have the Devil's Spear. I totally did not want to use this healing ring. Great Ring of Healing. Shove off. We want to use the Ring of the Wind. Okay, now Bound Spear. The Bound Spear does 6 to 40. The Ebony Spear does 5 to 32. It's not that good, but I think it's good enough. I mean, it's also a bit heavier than the Bound Spear. It's quite a lot heavier than the Bound Spear. Okay, now this guy is apparently a necromancer. I think we've gathered enough evidence to actually persecute him for that. Yeah, that didn't go well for you, did it? Ooh, Shimzil. And a very, very nice ring. Why do all the bad guys have so much good stuff? Any good books he has? Ooh, all the corpse preparation books. Well, he has a third one twice. Slowed soap. Ooh, Daedra skin. We are supposed to deliver some of that. Ghoul heart. Okay, we're gonna do some more alchemy here. Is that some Grandmaster equipment? This trip was so worth it. This trip was so worth it. Okay, why do I have a storm helm? Where did that come from? Away with it. That's worthless. That's kind of cool. I think I'm still going to throw this ring into the Red Mountain. Okay, no apparel I can drop. I'll have to keep that helm just in case I get back to Vivek. So I guess we're back to my alchemy. Actually, no, we're not. Okay, that's some nuclear pots. Ooh, Pala, book 1. Pala is actually a very, very good story as well. See the rest though. Ooh, they have both books here, so it's story time again. Hooray! Ah, Pala. Pala. I remember when I first heard that name not long ago at all. It was at a Tales and Tallows ball at a very fine estate west of Mir Karop, to which I and my fellow Mages Guild initiates had found ourselves unexpectedly invited. Truth be told, we needn't have been too surprised. There were very few other noble families in Mir Karop. The region had its halcyon days as a resort for the wealthy far back in the Second Era, and on reflection it was only appropriate to have sorcerers and wizards present at a supernatural holiday. Not that we were anything more exotic than students at a small, non-exclusive charter house of the guild. But like I said, there was a paucity of other choices available. For close to a year, the only home I had known was the rather ramshackle if sprawling grounds of the Mirkarop Mages Guild. My only companions were my fellow initiates, most of which only tolerated me, and the masters, whose bitterness at being a backwater guild prompted never-ending abuse. Immediately the School of Illusion had attracted me. The Magister who taught us recognized me as an apt pupil who loved not only the spells of the science, but their philosophical underpinnings. There was something about the idea of warping the imperceptible energies of light, sound, and mind that appealed to my nature. Not for me the flashy schools of destruction and alteration, the holy schools of restoration and conjuration, the practical schools of alchemy and enchantment, or the chaotic school of mysticism. No, I was never so pleased as to take an ordinary object and by a little magic make it seem something other than what it was. It would have taken more imagination than I had to apply that philosophy to my monotonous life. After the morning's lessons, we were assigned tasks before our evening classes. Mine had been to clean out the study of a recently deceased resident of the guild, and categorize his clutter of spellbooks, charms, and incunabula, whatever that is. It was a lonely and tedious appointment. Magus the Tandix's was an inveterate collector of worthless junk. But I was reprimanded any time I threw something away of the least possible value. Gradually, I learned enough to deliver each of his belongings to the appropriate department. Potions of healing to the Maguses of restorations, books on physical phenomena to Maguses of alteration, herbs and minerals to the alchemist, and soul gems and bound items to the enchanters. After one delivery to the enchanters, I was leaving with my customary lack of appreciation when Magus the Ether called me back. "Boy," said the portly old man, handing me book one item, "destroy this." It was a black disc, covered with runes with a ring of red-orange gems, like a bone, circling its periphery. "I'm sorry, Magister," I stammered. "I thought it was something you'd be interested in." "Take it to the Great Flame and destroy it," he barked, turning his back on me. "You never brought it here." My interest was piqued, because I knew the only thing that would make him react in such a way: necromancy. I went back to Magus Attendix's chamber and pored through his notes, looking for any reference to the disc. Unfortunately, most of the notes had been written in a strange code that I was powerless to decipher. I was fascinated by the mystery that I nearly arrived late for my evening class in enchantment, taught by Magus the Iltha himself. For the next several weeks, I divided my time categorizing the general debris and making my deliveries, and researching the disc. I came to understand that my instinct was correct. The disc was a genuine necromantic artifact. Though I couldn't understand most of Magus's notes, I determined that he thought it to be a means of resurrecting a loved one from the grave. Sadly, the time came when the chamber had been categorized and cleared, and I was given another assignment: assisting in the stables of the guild's menagerie. At least finally I was working with some of my fellow initiates and had the opportunity of meeting the common folk and nobles who came to the guild on various errands. Thus was I employed when we were all invited to the Tales and Tallows ball. If the expected glamour of the evening were not enough, our hostess was reputed to be a young, rich, unmarried orphan from Hammerfell. Only a month or two before had she moved to our desolate, wooded corner of the Imperial Province to reclaim an old family manor house and grounds. The initiates at the guild gossiped like old women about the mysterious young lady's past. What had happened to her parents, why she had left or been driven from her homeland. Her name was Betaniki, and that was all we knew. We wore our robes of initiation with pride as we arrived for the ball. At the enormous marble foyer, a servant announced each of our names as if we were royalty, and we strutted into the midst of the revelers with great puffery. Of course, we were then promptly ignored by one and all. In essence, we were unimportant figures to lend some thickness to the ball. Background characters. The important people pushed through us with perfect politeness. There was old lady Shodira discussing diplomatic appointments to Balmora with the Duke of Rimfalin. An orc warlord entertained a giggling princess with tales of rape and pillage. 3 of the guild maguses worked with 3 painfully thin-robed and noble spinsters about the haunting of Daggerfall. Intrigues at the imperial and various royal courts were analyzed, gently mocked, fretted over, toasted, dismissed, evaluated, mitigated, admonished, subverted. No one looked our way even when we were right next to them. It was as if my skill at illusion had somehow rendered us all invisible. I took my flagon out to the terrace. The moons were doubled, equally luminous in the sky, and an enormous reflecting pool that stretched out into the garden. The white marble statue lining the sides of the pool caught the fiery glow and seemed to burn like torches in the night. The sight was so otherworldly that I was mesmerized by it, the strange red-god figures immortalized in stone. Our hostess had made her home there so recently that some of the sculptures were still wrapped in sheets that billowed and swayed in the gentle breeze. I don't know how long I stared before I realized I wasn't alone. She was so small and so dark, not only in her skin but in her clothing, that I nearly took her for a shadow. When she turned to me, I saw that she was very beautiful and young, not more than 17. "Are you our hostess?" I finally asked. "Yes," she smiled, blushing, but I'm ashamed to admit that I'm very bad at it. I should be inside with my new neighbors, but I think we have very little in common. It's been made abundantly clear that they hope I have nothing in common with them either. I laughed. When I'm a little higher than an initiate in the Mages Guild, they might see me as more of an equal. I don't understand the concept of equality in Cyrodiil yet, she frowned. In my culture you proved your worth, not just expected it. My parents both were great warriors, and I hope to be. Her eyes went out to the lawn, to the statues. Do the sculptures represent your parents? That's my father Parium there, she said, gesturing to a life-sized representation of a massively built man, unashamedly naked, gripping another warrior by the throat and preparing to decapitate him with an outstretched blade. It was clearly a realistic depiction. Parium's face was plain, even slightly ugly, with a low forehead, a mass of tangled hair, stubble on his cheeks. Even a slight gap in his teeth, which no sculptor would surely have invented except to do justice to his model's true idiosyncrasies. And your mother? I asked, pointing out a nearby statue of a proud, rather squat warrior woman in a mantilla and a scarf, holding a child. Oh no, she laughed. That was my uncle's old nurse. Mother's statue still has a sheet over it. I don't know what prompted me to insist that we unveil the statue that she pointed to. In all likelihood, it was nothing but fate, and a selfish desire to continue the conversation. I was afraid that... If I did not give her a project, she would feel the need to return to the party, and I would be alone again. At first she was reluctant. She had not yet made up her mind whether the statues would suffer in the wet, sometimes cold Cyrodiilic climate. Perhaps all should be covered, she reasoned. It may be that she was merely making conversation and was reluctant, as I was to end the standoff and be that much closer to having to return to the party. In a few minutes' time, we tore the tarp from the statue of Betaniki's mother. That is when my life changed forevermore. She was an untamed spirit of nature, screaming in a struggle with a misshapen, monstrous figure in black marble. Her gorgeous long fingers were raking across the creature's face. The monster's talons gripped her right breast in a sort of caress that prefaces a mortal wound. Its legs and hers wound around one another in a battle that was a dance. I felt annihilated. This lithe but formidable woman was beautiful beyond all superficial standards. Whoever had sculpted it had somehow captured not only a face and figure of a goddess, but her power and will. She was both tragic and triumphant. I fell instantly and fatally in love with her. I had not even noticed when Galen, one of my fellow initiates who was leaving the party, came up behind us. Apparently I had whispered the word magnificent, because I heard Betaniki's reply as if miles away. Yes, it is magnificent. That's why I was afraid of exposing it to the elements. Then I heard clearly, like a stone breaking water, Galen. Mara preserve me. That must be Pala. Then you heard of my mother? Asked Betaniki, turning his way. I hail from Wayrest, practically on the border of Hammerfell. I don't think there's anyone who hasn't heard of your mother and her great heroism, ridding the land of that abominable beast. She died in that struggle, didn't she? Yes, said the girl sadly, but so too did the creature. For a moment we were all silent. I don't remember anything more of that night. Somehow I knew I was invited to dine the next evening, but my mind and heart had been entirely and forevermore arrested by the statue. I returned back to the guild, but my dreams were fevered and brought me no rest. Everything seemed diffused by white light, except for one beautiful, fearsome woman. Pala. I will take that. There's also book 2 here, so we'll read that as well. Pala. Pala. The name burned in my heart. I found myself whispering it in my studies even when I tried to concentrate on something the Magus was saying. My lips would silently purse to voice the Pal, and tongue lightly flick to form the La, as if I were kissing a spirit before me. It was madness in every way except that I knew that it was madness. I knew I was in love. I knew she was a noble red god woman, a fierce warrior more beautiful than the stars. I knew her young daughter Betaniki had taken possession of a manor house near the guild, and that she liked me, perhaps was even infatuated. I knew Pala had fought a terrible beast and killed it. I knew Pala was dead. As I say, I knew it was madness, and by that I knew I could not be mad. but also knew that I must return to Betaniki's palace to see her statue of my beloved Pala engage in that final, horrible, fatal battle with the monster. Return I did, over and over again. Had Betaniki been a different sort of noblewoman, more comfortable with her peers, I would not have had so many opportunities. In her innocence, unaware of my sick obsession, she welcomed my company. We could talk for hours, laughing, and every time we would take a walk to the reflecting pond, where I would always stop breathless before the sculpture of her mother. It's a marvelous tradition you have, preserving these figures of your ancestors at their finest moments, I said, feeding her curious eyes on me. And the craftsmanship is without parallel. You wouldn't believe me, laughed the girl. But it was a bit of a scandal when my great-grandfather began the custom. We red gods hold a great reverence to our families, but we are warriors, not artists. He hired a traveling artist to create the finest of the first statues, and everyone admired them until it was revealed that the artist was an elf. An Altima from the Somerset Island. Scandal! It was, absolutely, but Nikki nodded seriously. The idea that a pompous, wicked elf's hands had formed these figures of noble red guard warriors was unthinkable, profane, irreverent, everything bad you can imagine. But my great-grandfather's heart was in the beauty of it, and his philosophy using the best to honor the best passed down to us all. I would not have even considered having a lesser artist create statues of my parents, even if it would have been more allegiant to my culture. They're all exquisite, I said. But you like the one of my mother most of all, she smiled. I see you look at it even when you seem to be looking at the others. It's my favorite also. Would you tell me more about her? I asked, trying to keep my voice light and conversational. Oh, she would have said she was nothing extraordinary, but she was, the girl said, picking a flower from the garden. My father died when I was quite young, and she had so many roles to fill, but she did them all effortlessly. We have a great many business interests, and she was brilliant at managing everything. Certainly better than I am now. All it took was a smile and everyone obeyed. And those who didn't paid dearly. She was very witty and charming, but a formidable force when the need arose for her to fight. Hundreds of battles, but I can never remember a moment of feeling neglected or unloved. I literally thought she was too strong for death. Stupid, I know, but when she went to battle that horrible creature, that freak from a mad wizard's laboratory, I never even thought she would not return. She was kind to her friends and ruthless to her enemies. What more can one say about a woman than that? Poor Betaniki's eyes teared up with remembrance. What sort of villain was I to goad her so, in order to satisfy my own perverted longings? Sheogorath could never have conflicted a mortal more than me. I found myself both weeping and filled with desire. Pala not only looked like a goddess, from her daughter's story, she was one. That night, while undressing for bed, I rediscovered the black disc I had stolen from Magus Attendix's offices weeks before. I had half forgotten about its existence, that mysterious necromantic artifact which the mage believed could resurrect a dead love. Almost by pure instinct, I found myself placing the disc on my heart and whispering, Pala. A momentary chill filled my chamber. My breath hung in the air in a mist before dissipating. Frightened, I dropped the disc. It took a moment before my reason returned, and with it the inescapable conclusion. The artifact could fulfill my desire. Until the early morning hours, I tried to raise my mistress from the chains of oblivion, but it was no use. I was no necromancer. I entertained thoughts of how to ask one of the Maguses to help me, but I remembered how Magister Iltha had bid me to destroy it. They would expel me from the guild if I went to them and destroyed the disc themselves. And with it, my only key to bring my love to me. I was in my usual semi-torpid condition the next day in classes. Magister Iltha himself was lecturing on his specialty, the School of Enchantment. He was a dull speaker with a monotone voice, but suddenly I felt as if every shadow had left the room and I was in a palace of light. When most persons think of my particular science, they think of the process of invention, the infusing of charms and spells into objects, the creation of a magical blade, perhaps, or a ring. But the skilled enchanter is also a catalyst. The same mind that can create something new can also provoke greater power from something old. A ring that can generate warmth for a novice, on the end of such a talent, can bake a forest black. The fat man chuckled. Not that I'm advocating that. Leave that for the School of Destruction. That week, all the initiates were asked to choose a field of specialization. All were surprised when I turned my back on my old darling, the School of Illusion. It seemed ridiculous to me that I had ever entertained an affection for such superficial charms. All my intellect was now focused on the School of Enchantment, the means by which I could free the power of the disc. For months thereafter, I barely slept. A few hours a week I'd spent with Betaniki and my statue to give myself strength and inspiration. All the rest of my time was spent with Magister Ilfa or his assistants, learning everything I could about enchantment. They taught me how to taste the deeper levels of magicka within a stored object. A simple spell cast once, no matter how skillfully and no matter how spectacularly, is ephemeral. Of the present, what it is and no more, sighed Magister Ilfa, but placed in a home, it develops into an almost living energy, maturing and ripening so only its surface is touched when an unskilled hand wields it. You must consider yourself a miner, digging deeper to pull forth the very heart of gold. Every night when the laboratory closed, I practiced what I had learned. I could feel my power grow, and with it, the power of the disc. Whispering, Pala, I delved into the artifact, feeling every slight nick that marked the runes in every facet of the gemstones. At times I was so close to her, I felt hands touching mine. Something dark and bestial, the reality of death, I suppose, would always break across the dawning of my dream. With it came an overwhelming rotting odor, which the initiates in the chambers next to mine began to complain about. Something must have crawled into the floorboards and died, I offered lamely. Magister Ilfa praised my scholarship, and allowed me the use of his laboratory after hours to further my studies. Yet no matter what I learned, Pala seemed scarcely closer. One night it all ended. I was swaying in a deep ecstasy, moaning her name, the disc bruising my chest, when a sudden lightning flash through the window broke my concentration. A tempest of furious rain roared over Mirkorup. I went to close the shutters, and when I returned to my table, I found that the disc had shattered. I broke into hysterical sobs and then laughter. It was too much for my fragile mind to bear such a loss after so much time and study. The next day and the day after, I spent in my bed, burning with a fever. Had I not been a mage's guild with so many healers, I likely would have died. As it was, I provided an excellent study for the budding young scholars. When at last I was well enough to walk, I went over to visit Betaniki. She was charming as always, never once commenting on my appearance, which must have been ghastly. Finally, I gave her reason to worry, and I politely but firmly declined to walk with her along the reflecting pool. "But you love looking at statuary," she exclaimed. I felt that I owed her the truth, and much more. "Dear lady, I love more than a statuary. I love your mother. She's all I've been able to think about for months now, ever since you and I first removed the tarp from that blessed sculpture. I don't know what you think of me now, but I have been obsessed with learning how to bring her back from the dead." Betaniki stared at me, eyes wide. Finally she spoke. "I think you need to leave now. I don't know if this is a terrible jest. Believe me, I wish it were. You see, I failed. I don't know why. It couldn't have been that my love wasn't strong enough, because no man had a stronger love. Perhaps my skills as an enchanter are not masterful, but it wasn't from lack of study. I could feel my voice rise, and I knew I was beginning to rant, but I could not hold back. Perhaps the fault lay in that your mother never met me, but I think that only the caster's love is taken into account in the necromantic spell. I don't know what it was. Maybe that horrible creature, the monster that killed her, cast some sort of curse on her with its dying breath. I failed, and I don't know why." With a surprising burst of speed and strength for so small a lady, Betaniki shoved herself against me. She screamed, "Get out!" and I fled out the door. Before she slammed the door shut, I offered my pathetic apologies. "I'm so sorry, Betaniki, but consider that I wanted to bring your mother back to you. It's madness, I know, but there's only one thing that's certain in my life, and that's that I love Pala." The door was nearly shut, but the girl opened it crack to ask tremulously, "You love whom?" "Pala!" I cried to the gods. "My mother," she whispered angrily, "was named Xalis. Pala was the monster." I stared at the closed door for Mara knows how much time, and Then began the long walk back to the Mages Guild. My memory searched through the minutiae, to the tales and Talos night so long ago when I first beheld the statue, and first heard the name of my love. That breath initiated Galen had spoken. He was behind me. Was he recognizing the beast and not the lady? I turned the lonely bend that intersected the outskirts of Murkorup, and a large shadow rose from the ground where it had been sitting, waiting for me. Pala, I groaned. Pala. Kiss me, it howled. And that night brings my story up to the present moment. Love is red, like blood. What a weird story, but I think the twist was kind of interesting. Also, here's a Vampires of Vardenfell book 2. We'll take that, or not, because we can't carry it. Damn it. Okay, back to the alchemy table. We need to make some more potions. How about we use some ash yam? And I don't want to use that Daedra skin. We could make a cure poison potion with those cool hearts. I think Muck cured poison. No, it didn't. Paralyze. What cured poison? Ah, script jelly. That's absolutely fine. I kind of wanted those potions to fail, to be honest, because that way we don't have to carry them around. Okay, Kaguti hide. Fortifies speed. Anything else that fortifies speed? I'll probably have to label this the alchemy episode. Health, agility, willpower. No fortifies speed on this side. Fortifies speed. Luck. Nothing to fortify speed. Oh well. I guess I'll just drop some of this now we'll make some antidotes. So we have the Scathe Graw, all of that, and we had Scrib Jelly. Nice. There's even a better potion that has a Restore Willpower as well. Let's go with Salt Rice and Scuttle, which will give us a reasonably decent... Let's not use the rat meat. Scuttle. We suck at potion making, but we did get the weight down. Okay, anything else I need to do here? Alright, I want to see what stuff is in here. Bone meal, we have plenty of that now. Ghoul heart, bone meal, corpse preparation. Journeyman stuff, we don't need that. There's some gold sitting around here. I'll have that. Gem. What does he need all those torches for? Exclusive potion. I currently can't carry it. quite sure if I carry this, if I take this boat. Why am I over encumbered now? Alright, because I picked something up. Okay. That was worth trying. I think it did rot actually. It doesn't fortify strength. I think this and that will do a restore magicka potion, yes. Anything else that will restore magicka? I think pearls might do. They did dispel. Oh well. Oh well. Could also make a potion that restores both health and magicka if we so desired. Would be kind of a nice potion. Anything that restores health. Except Corkball Brood. We'll sacrifice an emerald for that. Okay, something tells me that... do you hear that sound? Okay. Kind of weird that most of those things we found here are kind of unique. But for now, let's see the dimension out and see if we can find a store in Monarch to sell all this stuff to. Well, most of this stuff. Let's do that before we actually go back to the temple, because I believe I would prefer this slave market. Oh yeah, apparently I can buy a slave here if I want to.
You may speak.
What's your trade? You're a merchant. Ooh, that reminds me, I should probably put my Dark Brotherhood stuff back on. We don't want to piss off the Ordinators after all. Okay, that's a temple. I think there was at least one store here. That's a hostel. I'm not sure I would want it there. This would be the temple. Okay, what's this? Veteran Stronghold. There's gotta be some sort of shop here. Wasteworks, why the hell not? It's really just a straight line? No, it's not. There's a trader over there somewhere. Question is where? Is this the trader? Yes, wonderful. Where is his... there it is. Ooh, nice. How are we skill-wise? Almost the next level.
Yes.
Okay, let's barter. I hope you're rich. You have 1,000 gold. 1,000 gold. Are you kidding me? I believe we can finally sell Unduce's key. We don't need this guy. We ideally also want to sell this ebony broadsword. I don't think he'll give us anything that's worth it in return. If this guy had like a few really good soul gems or so, I'd be more than happy to buy them off of him. But he doesn't, so yeah. Other things I can sell. I have those potions I made. Hey, it's an apprentice's calcinator. I don't need that. I would like to sell you some magic in bottles. Magicka, cure poison, drain health. That can go. It was completely weightless though. We'll sell that. We'll keep the levitation. Definitely a fire resistance. Restore fatigue, restore health, restore magicka. We'll keep that. Oh wait, I also have books I want to sell. God damn it! I just want to go down there. Okay, miscellaneous. I have books. You can have this one. You can have. You can't have this one. You can have. Probably also not this one. Didn't I take both volumes of Pala? Yeah, there's book 1 and book 2.
What's this about?
Come on. Okay. So we have defeated this guy. Okay, can I advance? Hooray, we are now an acolyte. What's the next rank? Is that the curate? Next rank is adept, so... Okay, we are almost a curate. But not yet, so I'm afraid we'll just Divine Intervention out of here. And we now have a Daedra skin for Master Arian, so I'm half tempted to actually get to him. I believe we might need to clear up some weight as well. Oh well, loading times galore. Ah, wonderful. Let's just quickly check the journal. Options, quests, House Telvanni, Daedra skin, Malam Rion. Okay, so I believe we could just take the boat to Tel Vos. Ow! Or rather to Vos, but first let's actually see... Do I want to risk a wild level up, or do I want to actually focus it somewhere? I should have some money left. So I don't think this was actually a good idea to trap the Bone Lord in.
What say you?
Yes, probably
Your bidding, sir?
waste of a good soul gem. So we'll use that to charge up one enchantment later on if you so desire. I don't want to waste it on my... I could actually... Might be a good idea. I'll actually pay an enchanter for my spear. I should also probably turn up the AI range. Because I think that's why those cliff races partially are hovering there in mid-air without doing anything useful.
Greetings, Outlander.